Gordon Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Yesterday on this very show on WJR Radio, we focused on judicial decisions in Michigan courts impacting the upcoming election. Decisions being made that Republicans say favor Democrats. We discussed Article 2 of the Constitution, which says the state legislature is in charge of making and changing election laws, not the judicial or executive branch. We asked why Republicans who control the Michigan legislature are not calling an emergency session to pass a resolution or statute staking that constitutional right. Well, today, some action is being taken. It's being taken by State Rep Ann Bollin, who joins us now. Thanks for being on the Guy Gordon Show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So you guys are filing a renewed motion to intervene in a lawsuit. Tell us what exactly you're doing and why that's so important.
Okay, well, number one, we are glad to hear that the Court of Claims Judge Stevens has agreed to reconsider our motion to intervene. Nobody is defending our state's election laws at this point, and the injunctions that were issued by the Court of Claims on Friday contradict Michigan elections law. Recognizing these are very challenging times, and also with changes in the constitutional law in 2018, we all recognize that, but the legislature was not given the opportunity to defend the Constitution through the law court, and the people's voice needs to be heard. Again, no one is defending our current statute that we have in place for voter applications, the return deadline for ballots.
So let's talk about the preliminary injunctions that were issued on Friday. You had two things, basically. You had that a ballot postmarked by November 2nd and received by the deadline for certifying the election, which is November 17th, those must be counted. And the court also ordered that during the 3 days before the election, a voter could choose any person, anybody they wanted to return their absentee ballot for them. That's something most people know as ballot harvesting and something that's been illegal in Michigan and most other states. Tell us how those things, those items could impact the election in Michigan.
All right. Well, the injunctions issued by the Court of Claims on Friday really directly contradict protections that are currently in statute. Michigan election law has many, many checks and balances, and we can all recognize these are challenging times. But let's take the postmarked ballot and the certifying deadline and the process for that. That's one of the provisions in this that I find most troubling. The provisional ballots are going to be processed in a way that only includes two representatives in a clerk's office that may or may not be. They're supposed to be of two different party affiliations, but it cuts out the public, if you will, and the transparency and accountability factor. The absent voter counting board that will be processing these absent voter ballots have to have people of different political party affiliations, but it also allows for challengers to be present while processing. And I think that's an important thing that was left out of this order. And so hopefully we will get some relief, at least attention paid to that. In this time, these are challenging times for sure. We need to ensure that we have integrity in our election administration, the voters have confidence, candidates have confidence, and that we can rely on the results. Now, the other one is what we refer to as ballot harvesting. It has been illegal. It should be illegal. There is a provision under current Michigan election law that allows a member of a family member in the same household to transport ballots back and forth to assist voters. And this, I think, invites trouble. And while I recognize these, again, are challenging times, I don't think we're going to witness the same problems we had in August. Applications have been filled out. People have known the November election is coming up. They have alternative ways to return those ballots. They can return them in person at the clerk's office. They can actually obtain in person their absent voter ballot, vote it right there, and return it to the clerk's office. Drop it in a drop box at the local clerk's office. So if there is a concern for the mail, there are other ways to return that absent voter ballot. And of course, there's the opportunity to vote in person on election day.
Now, if you do not get a favorable ruling by the judge, does this now give you an opportunity to appeal this?
No, if we're not rendered to be a party in the suit, we don't have an avenue of appeal as the legislature.
So you have to convince this judge that that these changes need to be made. Is it as much about this benefiting Democrats over Republicans, or is it really about getting a fair vote that every voter gets one vote and it's accurate?
Well, I think the important thing is we want every eligible voter to have their vote counted that vote, according to Michigan election law. We should not be averting Michigan election law during a pandemic or for any other reason. We have sound checks and balances in Michigan election law. And to have these rulings contradict and to change things in the way that the pandemic is a spoke of democracy, unexpected turnout, I call it a lot of noise out there. What I want to do is work to ensure that every eligible voter is able to vote freely, secretly, independently, and safely, and to know that their vote's going to count. We have laws. There has to be some responsibility on behalf of voters, just like there is election administrators, me as a legislator. So I would think we could be better spending our efforts to make sure that we are providing clear, concise information on how voters can get their ballots and how they can vote.
And you are a longtime township clerk in Brighton. You have confidence that local clerks can get the job done, COVID or no COVID?
Absolutely. And I think they've stated that time and time again. What is interfering with their ability to do the job is all the changes in the rules and the interpretations along the way. You know, we are less than 50 days from election, and we need to give the tools to the clerk to be able to render all these changes, and in this time of pandemic.
All right, State Representative Ann Bollin, thanks for being on the Guy Gordon Show today. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you for having me.
After the break, we are opening up the phone lines, 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. We have a lot to talk about, but first, let's check traffic and weather with Rich Lazinski.
Well, after a crisp start.
We're getting some calls here. Once Mike joins in, then I will take those.
All right. I will welcome our Facebook people if they're here.
I don't think we've got any comments yet.
Well, I think we came on. I don't know if they could in that first segment.
I think we were.
Oh.
Mike, when did we go live?
I went live right before the show started.
8 minutes ago.
Okay.
They'll comment. If you're out there, go ahead and say hi. Obviously,
Hello, Facebook.
What's that, Kevin?
I said, hello, Facebook.
Yes.
Hello, YouTube.
I'm sure everyone watching on Facebook knew that was a tape. That's the kind of behind-the-scenes access you get when you watch us.
Bonus.
That's right. A little peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
You know, the Facebook viewers might also have enough of me because I was on earlier today with Chris.
I see. They could be tired of you. Well, you can always get family to check in. Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
Now that's your
sister.
Sister, okay. And I was waiting for you to bail me out there. Hi, Suzanne.
Bell job, yes. That is my older sister who looks younger than me and is my nearest sister. There's 7 of us Dietz kids. So
holy cow. Oh, hey, family's checking in.
Look at that. See? Oh, it's 1-to-1 here and family checking in.
Wow, 7 kids, huh?
Yeah, my parents were busy. They 4 boys, 3 girls.
I'm glad you said it, not me.
That's good, Suzanne. We thought nobody was out here. Facebook was just empty, a blackout.
I thought it got shut down like TikTok.
I know Facebook's always listening though, because they send me whatever I'm talking about. They send me ads to buy something. Yeah, TikTok.
Yeah, if I Google something once, it's on all of my devices.
I can see you and Rich doing TikToks together. I'm going to have to start looking for your account.
I don't have a TikTok yet.
It's right up your alley.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
more
know.
up Rich's, actually.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Thanks, Andy.
I'm slow to adopt new social medias.
Right.
What happened to you at the store, Laura?
My mic was muted. I apologize. I went to a store in the mall, hadn't looked up anything online, and the ads started popping up on Facebook for me. So I don't know if they like geotagged me or something.
Yeah, it's weird. We feel like without even like Google searching, we're now just being targeted with ads we're talking about. It's
Right.
I
Like
don't know.
you just yell out to the ether, "I'm hungry. Where should I eat?" And then some
Boom.
device will pick your voice up, and you'll get a whole bunch of ads.
Exactly.
I like to think that I really confuse, Google, Facebook, whoever's tracking me, because I like to look up so many different things for work purposes. There's no real political views. I mean, I've got my own, obviously, but my searches have to confuse them.
I wonder if like you typed in who wants to buy furniture, they would realize that they don't need to send you ads, that you're getting rid of furniture instead of buying furniture. If you could trick
But then
them.
they probably would send you to all these, sites to sell stuff on.
Oh yeah, you can't win.
Yeah, I get ads for stuff I've already bought. So I've made a big purchase. Like I got a new TV a couple summers ago, and then after I bought a TV, I was getting ads for a new TV. I'm like, I won't need this for at least another 5 to 10 more years.
Did you guys see by any chance, did you guys see the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix?
No, not
but
yet.
I heard about it.
It's definitely worth watching.
You'll have to tell us next break. We're coming back in 10 here.
All right.
This is the Guy Gordon Show, 760 WJR, where Detroit comes to talk. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
If Donald Trump decided not to nominate a candidate for the Supreme Court right now, he'd be the first president not to nominate a candidate when there was an opening in the president's final year of a term. The reason the Constitution compels sitting presidents to nominate candidates whenever there's an opening on the Supreme Court. It's not like this has never happened before. 29 other times a president has nominated a candidate to the Supreme Court in the final year of either their first or second term in office. When Donald Trump decides to do it on Saturday, he'll make 23 out of 45 presidents who nominated a candidate in their final year of their first or second term. You're listening to WJR, where Detroit comes to talk. The phone lines are open, 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. Let's check in with Larry in Rochester Hills. Larry, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dietz. I was just listening to your last interviewer, and I'm not affiliated with either party, but it just seems like there's such fear-mongering going around. And this last statement that she made that, well, there's got to be people in the office where they're counting the votes. It's almost like there's a boogeyman while they're counting the votes. I don't think that I've ever heard of, whether it's Republican or Democrat, taking votes and casting them on the other side. And this whole thing is just, with COVID, I think there needs to be something to be done to be these officials so that they can be elected. But as far as listening to I think she was Republican, that some of their things that they are trying to take to court, I really am not compelled to see. I see through it, and it's sad that this is where it's going to go. And I also want to say one thing, that I was disappointed with what the Republicans are doing, but he does have every right to elect another Supreme Court. And the Democrats are really trying to muddy the water, and they're going to stack the courts, and they're going to do all these quiver things. And it's just getting to a point, Kevin. I'm 70 years old. Where's normality anymore?
Yeah, Larry, it seems like people believe that the mail-in vote helps Democrats and the in-person vote helps Republicans. So whichever side of it you're on, it seems like people are trying to persuade you to do whichever helps their side. and make people worry. Is there going to be a big fear that you're going to catch COVID if you go and vote in person, or is there this fear of fraud, mail fraud, if you vote absentee? And now, I mean, we saw President Donald Trump tweeted out, "Hey, Michigan, make sure to vote absentee," because they know that they need Republicans to vote absentee if they're not going to go to the polls. But it does get a little tiring, everybody seeming to angle all the time for which position they favor. But what's interesting here, I think, and what I was hoping to get out of State Representative Bollin is more of the legal challenge, the legal matter. Who has the right to decide the election laws? Is it judges, which is what happened in this case, or is happening in this case, or is it the legislature, which the Constitution says that the legislature is supposed to do it? So I don't care who's in power, Republicans or Democrats, but if the legislature is supposed to make the election laws, then that's who should make them. And if you don't like who's making the laws or the laws they're making, then vote them out and vote someone else in. Thanks for your call, Larry. I appreciate it. Let's check in with Tim in Brownstown. How are you doing, Tim?
Thanks for taking my call, Kevin. I agree with you 100%. Let's follow the law. Legislators make the laws, and the judges interpret the law. They don't create law from the bench. They tried impeaching our president, what they did to Kavanaugh, and then the Russian collusion fakery, and we're supposed to believe they're not going to cheat? I mean, give me a break. It would be simple to do. Very simple. Let's get 100 people, get some ballots, have them fill out ballots for 2 weeks, 100 apiece, 70,000 ballots, getting the voter rolls, putting some names on there. You got ties with people in the post office, in government. Come on. Of course they're trying to cheat. This is absolutely ridiculous. You know,
Tim,
Vietnam, South
Tim,
Korea.
I was just going to say, Tim, that I'm sure there's been cheating in every election that's ever gone on in this country, and I'm sure that both sides cheat and try and take advantage when they can. The idea is to minimize that as much as possible. Do you think there's really enough cheating that can go on either side to actually change the turnout, change the decision of what the voters intended?
You know, who's going to verify? Are they going to verify signatures is what I'd like to know. They're not verifying signatures. This is going to be an absolute mess. We should be like Mexico, like I've said before. If you don't have an ID, you don't vote. It's that simple. We're the only ones that muddy up the water and make it easy to cheat. And you're right, on both sides. It's just disgusting.
I appreciate it. It's very disappointing, and it's hard to take it sometimes, which makes me think, hey, it's more important than ever to make sure I vote. So I will be out there voting. Thanks for the call, Tim. Ken from Livonia, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
Yeah, I just wanted to call and say, for a very important reason, I am going to be voting in person, and I encourage other people to do the same thing. And my main reason is this. If you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. I don't trust the Democrats one bit when it comes to the election. And I believe if we rely on voting by mail, it increases the chance of cheating. And so that's why I think that people should go cast a vote at the precinct and reduce the chance of a fixed election.
All right. We did see some problems in the primary, and that was just a small sampling of what the vote is going to look like in November. There's going to be a massive mail-in vote in November, which means there'll be more problems than there were in the primary. Voting in person could be long lines. Some people may be afraid of COVID. If you don't vote absentee, if you don't vote by mail, you have to get to the polls or your vote won't count. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out as well. Ken, thanks for the call. Let's check in with Randy in Northville. Thanks for being on the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate you taking the call. I guess I got a couple of concerns with the ruling that just had come down in the last couple of days. I think I heard about it yesterday, and you've been talking about it. On the one hand, there is so much time here in between when you need to get a ballot in. I think it's ridiculous to extend that, the accepting of mail-in ballots beyond the date. But probably what concerns me even more, and I haven't seen the exact verbiage, but as I heard it yesterday on your station, my concern is in ballot harvesting. I didn't hear a limitation of who could collect and deliver ballots for other people out there. And that, in essence, is the whole basis of ballot harvesting. Right? I think that opens it up to so much potential for fraud.
Well, that's one of the issues they're talking about, ballot harvesting. They took away the ban that had restrictions on who can bring your vote in, which was you could bring your own vote in, your family member could bring your vote in, or you could mail it, and the post office could bring your vote in. And now they've, under this new order by a judge, they have taken that away, allowing a voter to pick anyone they want to bring that vote in. So that's what the Republicans are trying to battle. They've filed a motion now to try and be heard on that issue again. And we're going to talk to Mike Shirkey, state senator, after the break. But it's a very important question. Thanks, Randy, for calling. We appreciate it. George in Detroit, let's see what you have to say. Thanks for calling the Guy Gordon Show.
Hi, Kevin. I'm tearing my hair out here, going nuts. I'm so sick of hearing everybody say this. Well, both sides do it. All right. It reminds me of an analogy to, racism or police brutality. Yes, there is racism. It's not systemic. Yes, there is police brutality. It's not systemic. So it's the same with this. Joe Biden, number one, he started and he ended the Democrat convention with the lie of President Trump said Nazis, KKK, and neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people. That's nonsense. Yesterday, he's saying about this other crap that 4 anonymous sources said that Trump called the World War I vets suckers and what was the other word? Suckers and losers. That's been debunked by all the people that were there, including John Bolton, who wrote a book against Trump. He said if that happened, that would have been a chapter in my book. Biden said yesterday, all the sources have confirmed that he said that. I mean, these people, you know what the Born Alive Child Protection Act is? That's where when a baby survives a botched abortion, you give that baby medical attention. The Democrats back in February are filibustering and blocking that. That's pure evil. And so even when it's born, it's a baby. It's writhing in pain, survives an abortion. You got to wrap it in a towel and throw it in a laundry room or a dirty janitorial room and let it die. You can't dare to act like it's human. Even after it's born, it's not a human being because it was involved in abortion. And we have to keep that lie going. So how can you say that side, they're just as moral, the Republicans and conservatives are just as evil as the left. They are not. That's crazy. Let's end this lie. It's a lie.
All right, George, thanks for calling. One of the issues is somebody says something and the media runs with it and runs with it and runs with it, and months later we find out that it wasn't exactly as it was first reported or first said, or the facts don't match up, and that's a problem with the media and social media just being way too quick to put out anything anybody says. Political commercials, you always want to watch and be a little bit skeptical on a paid ad. But when the media is doing it, it's frustrating for sure. A lot more coming up. When we come back after the break, we have State Senator Mike Shirkey, and we're going to take some more calls too. But right now, let's check traffic and weather with Rich Luzinski.
WJR Traffic First is also sponsored by Gordon Chevrolet. Gordon Chevrolet, pull ahead your lease and take advantage of 0 interest for up to 84 months or sign and drive lease program. End of the month deals, open special hours this Saturday, 9 to 3. Gordon Chevrolet on Ford Road just west of Merriman in Garden City. GordonChevrolet.com. Gordon Chevrolet, find new roads. The I-94 eastbound ramp to Range Road is closed for construction. That's until 7 p.m. and expect delays on I-75 northbound between I-696 and 11 Mile. Now WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel. Sunny, 72 degrees. I'm Rich Fluzensky, WJR News, in about 1 minute.
All right, so comments are a little busier now than it was last time. There's no one for me, Kevin. That's my Aunt Patty.
All right, that's good. I got to find some more relatives. What's going on?
Sandy from Troy. If you remember her from 2 weeks ago, she's the one.
She called in.
She called in, and then she was commenting at the same time, and she did it last week with ML.
Oh, okay. All right.
She's becoming a star there. Yes, it appears that way, Patrick. We are having our family reunions here on air.
Get creative with COVID.
Yeah, that's true. This is how we're doing Christmas on StreamYard, I guess. Let's see. Mark Gardner checking in. Good to see you, Mark. Let's see.
Just took a little longer for word to get out today that we were here.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because, our first interview was a tape, and I felt like it was a challenge to myself to get Ann Bollin's graphic and banner up before we got our first viewer. And I think I just did it.
I think you did it too.
Bill Sheridan, this is absurd. We can't name a winner for 14 days after the election. This is illegal. I don't know if it's illegal, but you could make the point that it is absurd.
Well, yeah, it's what the judges say in the law is, but the question is, will the legislature remind the judges that only the legislature can make laws? The judges have to interpret them, and will the legislature do anything about it? Will they meet between now and the election and take any action?
Well, the guy to ask is coming up here next out of the news.
Yes. I guess it all depends on just how close the election is. If it's a blowout, none of this will matter. If it's very, very close, all of it's going to matter.
And to be honest, I can't predict if it's going to be close, if it's going to be a blowout, who's going to win. It's going to be a complete surprise to me on election night or election fortnight.
It is, yeah. I mean, in Michigan, if Michigan went the other way, I don't know if Clinton would have won last time or not. I guess I should go back and look at the Electoral College. But Michigan was 10,000 votes out of 10 million. Can you steal 10,000 votes? I don't know. I mean, out of 10 million.
You're talking about back in 2016.
Yeah, I'm talking about 2016.
Yeah.
So if they get that tight, I don't know if that's the closest. That was the closest state 4 years ago. Michigan was the closest state 4 years ago. I don't know if there's ever been elections that were closer than that, but.
Yeah. So what are the states that are supposed to be close?
Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, Arizona, Minnesota.
Florida's pretty much expected to go red, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it seems like every election night we're watching Florida and or Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're big, huge states for electorals, and not as big as California and New York, but we know where California and New York are always going. Ohio and Florida move back and forth. Patrick, yeah, we got the rush crowd held over today. We got a lot of calls from the right today. Patty, you are a celebrity. Same door. Oh, you can appoint with 24 hours.
Oh, I think that's this was Jennifer Bachman. She was asking, can you please address Secretary of State wait times? Had my wallet stolen 5 weeks ago and can't get an appointment.
Oh, because of COVID. Yeah, that's a problem. You can't get tabs for your cars either, but police aren't ticketing.
I think it was last year when the Secretary of State's computers went down for upgrades. I remember the governor saying that I don't know if it was the governor or Jocelyn Benson. It might have been Jocelyn Benson saying that, don't worry about it until we're back up online. And I got pulled over for expired tabs. And I said that to the police officer. And he said, well, I haven't heard that. So here's the ticket. And if you want to make a court date, you can say it. And so I was all ready to make my case. And I just walked into the judge and they're like, this is your first offense in a while. You're free to go. So I was all like jacked up with a whole bunch of
printed your stories and everything, didn't you?
I did. I was going there to represent myself, and I was glad to get out of the ticket, but I was a little disappointed I didn't get to play a small town ticket attorney.
That's
Senator Shirkey is there, Kevin.
Okay.
We are back in 25 here.
Yeah, going to court is always fun on tickets.
Maybe one day I'll have my Matlock moment.
Throw a briefcase on the counter and aha!
Right. His neck's not broken.
This is the Guy Gordon Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Article 2 of the Constitution says the state legislature is in charge of making and changing election laws, not the judicial or executive branch. Today, the Republican-controlled Michigan legislature has filed a renewed motion to intervene in a lawsuit against the Secretary of State, fighting a Court of Claims decision that would require local clerks to count ballots received in the mail up to 2 weeks after Election Day, and would allow voters during the 3 days before the election to choose any person they want to return in their absentee ballots. Will Republicans be able to put a stop to the changes? And if the court says no, what else can be done, if anything? Here to talk about that is State Senator Mike Shirkey. Mike, thanks for being on the Guy Gordon Show.
You're welcome, Kevin. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, so a lot of people wanted something to be done. They wanted the Michigan legislature to step up and take some sort of action. And today, some action has been taken. Tell us about it and if you think it'll work.
Well, it's hard to say if it'll work or not, but we're going to put our entire shoulder into appealing this blatant disregard for the Constitution. It's basically a multi-dimensional blatant disregard for our Constitution, because the judges aren't supposed to be making law; they're supposed to be interpreting law broadly, and then more specifically, as you identified in your opening, Article 2 says that the legislature solely is involved in established laws regarding elections. And this is a horrible precedent to set, because now with this precedent set, if we don't fight it with vigor, any rogue federal judge in the future, or any rogue state judge for that matter in the future, can say, you know what, this election coming up, it looks like it's going to be cold this day, so maybe we should spread it over 2 days because it's too cold. There's just no stopping this once this precedent is set. And so it's a very, very dangerous. And, we have other examples in our state with very highly elected people. For instance, the fact that our Secretary of State and our Attorney General have kind of basically walked away from defending statute, particularly in the case of the Attorney General. Her job is to defend Michigan laws. And now that the judges ruled on this, and they decided they're not going to defend it any further. So there's a lot of problems percolating in this entire process.
And if the state attorney general says, "Hey, we're not going to appeal the decisions by this judge," there's nothing really the Republican legislature can do about that. They're not a party to the suit, right? So they can't say, "Hey, we want this to go to the Court of Appeals. We want this to go to the Michigan Supreme Court to get an actual decision on if the Constitution of the state is being followed." You're stuck with what the state attorney general decides.
Well, we've asked for a position in this case, and I got to give credit where credit's due. The Secretary of State and the Attorney General have concurred that we have standing in this, and so we're hoping that within a few days that standing will be affirmed to allow us to go through the appeal process. But it still disappoints me that a sitting Attorney General can pick and choose which laws they think are legitimate and should be defended and which laws aren't. They should be defending any law that's on our statutes that it was properly processed and signed into law by any governor.
So if it's determined that you do have standing in this case, if the judge allows that, then the judge's final decision would be able to be appealed to the Michigan Supreme Court. Am I understanding you right?
That's correct. And but I'm hoping that we can get at least a stay, so that we can get through this election without this noise, and then have that battle afterwards. There's going to be enough other things going on in this election cycle, notwithstanding the fact that we're going to have an enormous mountain of absentee ballots to process at the local election level, that we don't need additional reasons to delay the processing and the counting of the actual outcome. And so that's probably the strategy we'll follow, and then we'll fight it as far as we can. And if we have to take it to the Supreme Court, we will.
So what do you see with what problems do you see with allowing 2 extra weeks to count ballots as long as they were postmarked on time?
Well, it doesn't even pass the sniff test, Kevin. Listen, if you lived 30 minutes from the polling booth where you vote, and you know that the booth it closes at 8 p.m. and you left it 10 minutes to 8, nobody's gonna keep it open for you just because it didn't plan correctly. And that's the analogy that I'm drawing. People want to vote absentee, which is fine. They do it all the time. You want to do one of two things. You get it done and get it mailed, so you accommodate the uncertainty of mail, just like we have to accommodate the uncertainty of traffic and getting to the polls. Plus, or otherwise, you can just drop it off into what's now a growing number of receiver ballot boxes. And so there's no reason and no excuse. This is just another rogue judgment by a judge who thinks they can, legislate from the bench.
And do you think allowing anybody to bring in absentee ballots for a voter will lead to massive fraud?
But certainly can. And that actually is more problematic to me than or equally problematic, at least, if not more problematic than the number of days for counting. And that is the ability to have everybody take your ballot and deliver it. And then the ability to, basically ballot harvest. And you can imagine going to retirement facilities and college campuses and things like that. And we've seen very, very clear evidence of this kind of activity in the state of California. And we are now approaching that level of enabling if we're not careful in Michigan.
Do you see any value in calling an emergency session of the legislature to pass a resolution or a statute that would state the constitutional right of the legislature to make and change election laws?
Well, we probably will pass a resolution. We don't need to call an emergency because we're in session now. But it escapes me as to what we would change. We already have laws in place. And so if we pass another law, we wouldn't necessarily need to change it. We just need the judges to support the laws that are already in place and properly interpret them. And of course, if we pass a law, I doubt that we would, even if we could tweak it, I doubt that we'd get the governor's signature on it. And so it would end up being basically an effort in demonstrating that we're serious, but I'm not sure it would produce many fruits. And it'd be different if we had a like-minded governor and that would support such a thing. But right now, I think it'd be a gesture that would look like a gesture, but not have much impact.
All right, so we'll be watching this court case to see how it plays out and where we will end up at the end of this. We appreciate Mike Shirkey coming on the show. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Kevin. Take care.
All right, we're opening up the phone lines after the break. 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. Right now, let's check traffic with Rich Luzinski.
Drivers are getting by slowly on US 23 southbound between Ida West Road and Summerfield. Remember, the I-94 eastbound ramp to Range Road is closed for construction until 7 p.m. Expect delays on I-75 northbound between I-696 and 11 Mile. Also on I-94 westbound between Telegraph and E-Course. And your right lane is closed for repairs on Lapeer Road, southbound between Granite Road and Indianwood until 5 p.m. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel, sponsored by the Metro Detroit chapter of Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning Contractors National Association, SMACNA. SMACNA contractors fabricate, install, and service heating and cooling ventilation systems, build metal roofing, and much more for your commercial, industrial, public, or residential project. They take all the necessary precautions, getting the job done right and on time. Hire Detroit's best. Visit smacnad.org. Here's your forecast.
Well, comfortable weather underway for us here in the Motor City with low humidity and fall officially beginning today. 76 this afternoon, mid-50s tonight. Tomorrow's the warmest day of the week, and temperatures in the low 80s tomorrow and near 80 Thursday, Friday. And then another blast of cooler air coming in early next week. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie, more on News Talk 760 WJR.
Bill Sheridan with a message to Senator Shirkey. Thank you for appealing this. We appreciate it. And it looks like our Secretary of State. There's always like a second show going on Facebook Live, apart from what goes on the air. Looking like Jennifer's getting a lot of good tips from the Secretary of State. So good luck, Jennifer.
They're lucky the judge allowed them to come back into the case, because they were not in the case originally. It was all decided by the Attorney General in Michigan, and the Republicans were not even able to file any arguments, any alternative options.
Yeah, and it sounded like Senator Shirkey had an eye towards the future. I think he said something about how it might not have an effect on this election, but moving forward, it's going to correct what he sees as being an overreach.
Well, yeah, you don't want a million different judges making a million different decisions all across the country on how this election's going to take place. And you want to have rules, and then you live by them. And if you don't like the rules, you change the people who make the rules.
Right.
You vote them out.
Mark, we try. We have a good time. Thanks. He's one of our loyal Facebook/YouTube viewers.
Yes.
Clay must still be at work. We haven't heard from him yet. I think he got in the 4 o'clock hour yesterday.
Yeah, he popped in at the very end. Oh, good. The lawn people are here, so we'll have some lawn service for your entertainment.
I was gonna say I thought I heard something.
Yeah, when they after they come in with the blower, and that's twice as loud. That's very nice.
Oh, look, they've got a chainsaw. They're taking down a tree. I remember one time when Chris was filling in for Frank, and I was doing the StreamYard with him. You could see his long guy going back and forth behind him in the shot.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, he had that big window.
Yeah.
He was doing it in front of him. I always thought someone's going to come up behind him and disagrees with him and make faces in the window.
Right. Or just be back there, sunbathing, and then we'd have to turn the video off.
Yeah.
Though I think people like that. One of my favorite things about everyone working from home is I definitely like to look at everyone's man cave, like what the background in their house looks like, and
right.
I like it when like a dog walks into the room and you have to stop and show everyone the dog.
I like how Rich puts up different backgrounds when he's on the StreamYard and whatnot. It's always fun.
Oh yeah, the green screen. He's figured that out.
That's a lot of work. Well, I actually don't know what goes into it, but it seems like a lot of work. But that's something Rich loves, so.
The stories that have been breaking while you've been at work. 760 WJR, where Detroit comes to talk. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Kamala Harris is in Flint, Michigan today and Detroit, Michigan today. She is focusing on meeting with black business owners. Donald Trump challenges Joe Biden to a drug test before all debates, suggesting Joe Biden will use some sort of substance to perform better during the debate. A lot to talk about today. You are listening to WJR, where Detroit comes to talk. 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. The phone lines are open. Let's start with Jack in Royal Oak. Jack, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
So I take exception to the fact that you're looking for the only fraud that counts as massive fraud. The Constitution says my vote and my neighbor's vote individually count. It doesn't have to be hundreds and thousands. And there is voter fraud. And I have been a challenger at elections, and it's amazing how much. There isn't a massive fraud, but there is voter fraud.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think one act of fraud is fraud, and you don't want any of it. And if you find it, it should be prosecuted, and there should be punishment for being involved in it. I was trying to ascertain if they thought there would be enough fraud to actually turn an election. Could there be enough fraud to actually, switch who the winner is in Michigan? Do you think there's that kind of fraud taking place in elections or not? I mean, that's what we're talking about here when Donald Trump says vote in person because he doesn't trust the system. Do you think that there is that much fraud? I think we all know that there's some fraud in elections.
That's not the question. The question is, don't establish procedures which makes fraud easier. And that's what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to set up an easier system to create fraud.
Well, that's better said. I like that. All right, Jack, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. Let's check in with Keith in Roseville. Keith, welcome to the Guy Gordon Show.
Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
I'd like to know if there's actually going to be like a handwriting analyst that's observing and verifying the actual signatures on the ballots when they get returned, or if it's just going to be some partisan who says, yeah, that's good enough. And I'd also like somebody to do an audit on all of the mail processing machines that have been decommissioned within the last couple of years to make sure that they all have the postmark component on them. So then there's nobody out there taking and pulling these postmark pieces out and able to postmark any of these other kind of ballots that they could have out there. There's a very big ability, very big chances for them to basically hack the postmarks. Those are not infallible. Those could be forged.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions and concerns when it comes to signatures. My understanding is it's the election officials who are looking at it if they determine if it's a match or not, and if they feel it's a match, then they can disqualify the vote. In Pennsylvania, a judge has said that you can't throw out any ballot because you don't think the signatures match, that you have to keep that ballot in case the final tally is close enough that they want to go back and have some sort of determination if it's valid or not. Can you have a panel of three look at every signature? You can't. It's too many people voting. It's hard to have a perfect system. As for the audit on the mail processing, yeah, I mean, how do you know if when the ballots were placed? And you really need to make sure that they weren't placed after election day. I mean, if you have a vote and the media is all saying how close this election is, and all of a sudden an extra, 10,000 votes get dumped into a ballot place, and somehow they're able to get counted because the postmarks aren't being thoroughly looked at. You got to.
How many times has that happened already? How many times does that happen where we go to an election and then they go, oh, well, 2 weeks later, we found these other 5,000 ballots in this county and another couple thousand over in a separate county. And then the vote total changes. They're like, oh, well, at least they had, good postmarks on them.
I can't think of an election where it didn't happen. I feel like every election I've ever followed has had some sort of problems, whether election sites not working properly or closing too early or opening too late, or all of a sudden these ballots were found, or somebody without the proper authority was able to take ballots to the clerk and their chain of command wasn't followed. And, do they end up throwing all those votes out? Does your vote, even if you voted properly, sometimes your vote gets thrown out? And we talked about that in the primary. That happened here in Michigan. People voted and their votes weren't counted because of problems in how election officials were handling ballots.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
All right, Keith, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. Let's bring Laura and Mike into the conversation. Mike, as you think about voter fraud, do you think, are we talking about, less than something 1%, or do you think the voter fraud is enough to actually make a difference? Because at the heart of these conversations, that's what people are wondering.
I think that's the big fear. And even if it is point something percent, like you said earlier, 10,000 votes out of a few million, is that enough to sway things? I mean, like I said, I've only been following this as long as it's been in the news, so I'm no expert. Overall, I have faith in the process, but everything is so understaffed, from the post office to election workers, that if there was a time for things to get really screwed up, it would be now.
Laura, could there be a situation where fraud made the difference of one person becoming the president over another person becoming the president? There's 300 million people in America. Could there be enough fraud to change who the president is?
I would think it's possible. I don't like to say nothing's ever possible. I don't want that to happen, but
yeah, we see sometimes it comes down to one state. In 2000, it came down to just the state of Florida. And if there happened to be enough fraud in just that one state, it could have determined the difference between President Bush or what could have been President Gore. So you got to pay attention to this stuff. I'm glad that people are looking at it before the election instead of waiting until after, and it's complete chaos. More coming up on the Guy Gordon Show. But first, let's check traffic with Rich Lazinski.
WJR Traffic First is also sponsored by Restore Wellness Center. Are you experiencing nagging body pain? The Restore Wellness Center can help relieve or eliminate neck and back pain, arthritis, tendonitis, muscle soreness, and more. Call the state's best non-invasive laser therapy treatment centers today and get your first treatment free. Call 800-935-5959 in Brighton, Shelby, and Bloomfield, or restorewellnesscenter.com. Drivers are getting by slowly on US 23 southbound between Ida West Road and Summerfield. Also on M59 eastbound between Mound Road and Van Dyke. And if you're out and about in Detroit, remember Vice Presidential Democratic nominee Kamala Harris will be attending events in town. Expect motorcade slowdowns as a result. Now, WJR weather first from the Weather Channel. Sunny, 72 degrees. I'm Rich Luzinski, WJR News in 2 minutes.
All right, Kevin. So I remember to answer the question you asked me today.
Okay.
As opposed to yesterday, where we're butting up against traffic and we just stopped talking to you.
We just called it quits.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep you on time. We're slaves to the clock.
That's what happens. What happens.
Is that 5:30 a.m., Pat? Because that should be illegal. Lawn work. I think lawn work I think 10 a.m. is the earliest you can do yard work on a weekend.
Oh yeah, that's the best on a Saturday or Sunday morning at about 6 a.m. and the hammers start, the lawnmowers start, and the snowblowers. Snowblowers I get because people got to get to work, I guess, or get out. But
I like the snowblowers because I listen to the snowblowers and know it has to be cold and snowy outside, and then I just extra cozy when I roll over and go back to sleep.
In a previous house, my next door neighbor was retired, and anytime any amount of snow came out, he just loved getting up at like 5 a.m. and snow blowing his driveway. He had nowhere to go, had nowhere to be, but he was up bright and early. That snow blower just churning bright and early.
If I had nowhere to be, I would never shovel my snow. I mean, well, I'd shovel it so that the postman doesn't kill himself. But other than that, I just wait in the house and wait for spring to melt it all.
You let the seasons take care of it. When it warms up, it goes away.
Right.
It's like raking leaves. There's no need to rake leaves. They just go into the ground.
Actually, you know what? I don't rake leaves. What I do is I just mow the lawn instead.
And
so
mulch them.
Yeah. I don't understand raking leaves. It seems like an unnecessary step if you own a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Well, how many trees do you have? Which we did do this counting for Guy a couple months ago.
We have one large tree in our front yard. My neighbor has another big tree. The backyard I don't get a whole lot, but the front yard I get a lot of trees. Sorry.
I'm hoping the blower comes through during the commercial break. We didn't do too bad on the cutting of the grass, but when the blower comes through, it's like 5 times as loud. I'm sure that's coming right as we're doing an intro here.
It can come through during your interview.
Yeah.
As a producer, I probably shouldn't be saying that, but it makes things fun.
All of a sudden, the door opens and like Kevin's glasses get blown off his face by the lawn blower.
I'm going to be like, Paul Egan, where are you? Why aren't you in a more quiet room for this important interview?
Paul, that's very rude of you. Yeah.
Paul is calling us, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I have his number. I just wanted to make sure I assumed that was the case.
I told him 403.
Perfect.
That story is pretty crazy. Did you guys read his story?
No, I didn't even see that pop. I didn't get a chance to read it this morning, but
yeah, hidden recordings of the person training petition signer gathering, the guys who go out and get signatures, telling them basically that forging someone's signature will get you caught, but if you do all these other things, it won't get you caught. All these other ways to get signatures that are illegal.
Well, I think they did get in. This is Unlock Michigan. They did get in some hot water because weren't they at least trying to register people who signed the petitions as Republicans?
Well, I believe that's true. And in this case, one of the other organizations who's against Unlock Michigan, I think it's Safe Michigan, they sent in someone undercover as a petition gatherer, and they recorded the training sessions.
Now, I'm obviously not for registering people for a political party against their will or without their knowledge, but I would imagine most people signing the Unlock Michigan petitions would probably identify as Republicans or conservatives anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you should still let people sign up and register under their own volition, but.
Well, so a lot of times it's the issues, that whatever it's I don't know, legalize marijuana or whatever, and you want to at least know what it is you're signing. It's not save the whales. Oh, okay, yeah. And then all of a sudden you signed up for legalizing marijuana or something.
Right, and then you got save the whales and legalizing marijuana all in your Facebook feed ads.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where they're listening, Kevin.
Exactly.
Yeah, I never sign any petitions on the street. I just don't trust it for that exact same reason. I'm like, I don't know what else I'm co-signing here.
So on this in that next segment, do we take callers up till 4:24?
Yeah, so we will take callers before we go to mobility makers, and I'll give you the exact timing.
Okay, so I should throw the number out at the end.
Yeah.
Of the segment.
Yeah, it's the mobility makers is 326.
They
My
do
God.
that in the morning with one of the segments, I think, Startup Nation or something.
Yeah, you
You
take
just
one
watch
or
the
two
clock
and
and try and hit it. Yeah.
then you go to the so I'll figure out the out for that, and then I'll tell you the drop dead time to hit the tape.
Gotcha.
And Paul is there.
Okay, great.
All right, we got 20 seconds left. So I guess we'll go backstage here.
This is the Guy Gordon Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Your special guest host, Kevin Dietz.
If you do not have a free press alert for Paul Egan stories, you need to do that. You need to get on your phone and make sure that you're alerted every time he posts a story. He never disappoints, and today is no exception. Paul Egan in the Detroit Free Press has a story about secret tape recordings of a trainer for Unlock Michigan, as this trainer is advising unlawful tactics on how to gather signatures. It's a undercover conspiracy story. I don't know, but this is amazing. Paul Egan joins us now on the Guy Gordon Show. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks.
I always love a good undercover camera story. In this case, it wasn't a reporter who was getting the undercover footage. It was another organization, right?
That's right. It was a group called Keep Michigan Safe, which opposes this effort to repeal the Emergency Powers of Governor Act that the governor's using to address the pandemic.
And so essentially, Unlock Michigan, they want to take away the governor's powers of all these executive orders that come out all of the time. And they feel that the legislature should be more involved in the decisions that are being made. Essentially, why is it that they need to gather signatures?
Well, the way that it's called the legislative initiative process, it's basically the same way that if you wanted to pass a piece of legislation through a citizen petition, you use the very same method if you want to get rid of a law. And so basically under Michigan law, if you get, it's really only about 350,000 valid signatures are needed. If you can get those signatures, get them confirmed that it's valid, present them to the legislature, then the legislature either if they vote to approve removing that law, then the law is gone. The governor can't veto it or do anything about it. If the legislature doesn't act, it then goes on the ballot for voters to decide whether to keep the law or not.
And anyone who's out and about in the public has probably come across people who are trying to get your signatures. They'll wave you down and they'll say, "Hey, are you interested in this? Or do you live in this county? Can we talk to you for a second and get you to sign this petition?" But the actual process of getting that is pretty interesting for people who don't understand. It's not necessarily all volunteers who are avid supporters of one position or another. Most of these are paid people, and they get paid quite a bit of money for every signature they get. How does it work?
You're right, Kevin. I mean, Unlock Michigan is claiming that most of their signatures in this case are coming from volunteers, but they certainly have a significant paid effort, and it's a really interesting industry, and it really has some shady aspects to it. We did a story about another company that was involved in this Michigan process, and a lot of these are people that basically travel from state to state collecting these signatures, and that's basically what they do for a living. The companies get a lot more, but the people who actually collect the signatures get, in this case, $3.50 is the going rate for an Unlock Michigan signature. So, if you can get a couple of hundred signatures a day, you can make a pretty good living. And basically, you talk to a lot of these people, and they really, most of them, I don't think, really care about the initiative one way or the other. What they're interested in is getting as many valid signatures as possible so they can get paid.
Yeah, so the worker's motivated by money. The more signatures they get, the more money they make. So to be tempted to break the rules to get a signature, you can see how that could happen. In this case, though, a trainer seems to be coaching them up on how to break the rules. What did you see or hear on the video and audio?
The video and audio lasts about an hour and 10 minutes, and a lot of it's a fairly typical training session. I mean, he tells war stories about different people that he's trained before and how some of them have turned out and some of them have not, and he uses a lot of profanity and gets off on he started talking about, well, here's a way, like, I wouldn't suggest you do it, but here's the way I like to do it. I like to sort of trespass in parking lots and kind of avoid the managers and then hide behind cars if the cops come, and then run to another. He said, I call it a kind of a guerrilla tactic, but he kind of suggested that these trainees might not be quite ready for that. They might be better just to, get a stationary place where they can stay and get signatures. And one of the people in the class asked him, would it be okay to, I know somebody that has a store, could I just leave the petition with them and, just have customers come in and sign it, and then I'll come back and get it and, turn it in as mine. And he's, well, technically you can't, but yes, you can, and he said, and then he started even talking about, you could then, because this is such a contentious issue, you could be, called into court over it, and kind of, talked about how when he was deposed, how he kind of gave misleading testimony about whether he'd been present for signatures or not.
What caught my eye was that the trainer saying, well, if you forge a signature, it's likely to get caught. You're not going to get away with that. But here's some things you might get away with that might work. It's not like he exactly said, hey, I want you to go out there and break the law or break the rules. But he certainly seemed to let people know that if they wanted to get as many signatures as they could, there were ways to do it.
Yeah, he said, really, it's very hard to get caught doing anything shady except forging. He said, forging is really a waste of time because it's very time consuming to do it, and you're still likely to get caught. So he definitely recommended against forging signatures. But everything else was, more or less, he wasn't advocating it, but he was saying, you can do it. In some cases pointing out that it was illegal. For example, this idea of getting signatures without witnessing them.
So is this more of an inside look at the dirty business of signature gathering, or are there some consequences? Did this trainer actually break any laws? Could he be charged with any kind of crime, or are there consequences for Unlock Michigan? Could signatures that have been gathered be challenged? Could it impact what they're trying to do?
I think there could potentially be implications. In Michigan, and this is different from some states, Kevin, it's actually not illegal to lie about what the petition's about. You could tell somebody, do you want to sign a petition for LGBTQ rights, and then, stick a Unlock Michigan petition in front of them, and that they didn't read it, there really wouldn't be any legal repercussions for that. Certainly trespassing on private properties against the law, but I don't think they would try to go back on something like that. I think where the issue is if you have a group of signatures, if they say, well, if you look at the way these people were trained, how can we trust any of the signatures they've collected? And Unlock Michigan basically said as much last night. They said, they kind of distanced themselves from this company and said, well, we're just not going to pay for these signatures, which, presumably means they're not going to use them either.
All right. Another great story in the Detroit Free Press by Paul Egan. Paul, thanks for spending some time with us here on the Guy Gordon Show today.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. And you can check out that story at DetroitFreePress.com. We are going to open up the phone lines after the break, 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. We want to hear from you. But right now, we're going to hear from Rich Lazinski in traffic.
WJR Traffic First is sponsored by Super Car Wash. Join Super Car Wash's Unlimited Wash Club, and you can wash every day for as low as $12.95 a month at all 11 locations. It's quick, easy, and contactless, including free vacuums and free hand towel dry. At Super Car Wash with 11 locations, look super. Go unlimited today. We have an accident on I-75 southbound after Northline Road that's causing stop-and-go traffic from Dix Highway. The I-94 eastbound ramp to the Range Road is closed for construction until 7 p.m., and an accident blocks your left lane on I-94 westbound after the Lodge. That's causing slow traffic from I-75. Now, WJR Weather First from the Weather Channel. Here's your forecast.
Well, fall officially underway, and boy, the weather patterns have been cooperating here for the top of the work week. Our high today in the mid-70s. Tomorrow's the warmest day of the week at 81, and then upper 70s Thursday, Friday. Cooler numbers over the weekend and early next week again. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie. More on News Talk 760 WJR.
All right. So with mobility makers coming up here, our out's going to be 27:30,
Okay.
and so I'm going to need you to the tape by 24.
Okay, I'll look for that number and just flag me, just wave at me if I'm not moving quick enough. And do I have to introduce that in any special way, or just say this week's mobility makers or something?
Yeah, just throw it to Guy.
Oh, the guy's doing it. Okay.
Yeah, just say here's Guy with mobility makers. All right. Let's see
You
here.
doing it from the road?
Yeah, he's from his RV. He hooked up a satellite dish. Let's see, Mark Gardner, what is Backstage? I hear that all the time if you want to share. So Backstage, I don't know if we would even call this software, but the service we use for this video streaming is called StreamYard. And putting someone backstage just means when you see me go away, I'm backstage. So there's a button that says remove an ad, and it's called Backstage. So it just means we're in the video session, but we're not actually on video.
So they can't hear you on air, or they can't hear you in the stream. So
right. All right. Sterling Heights, I know it well. Grew up in Clinton Township. Fellow Macomer, Bill Sheridan there.
Oh yeah, all right. Oh, I got another relative. I'm a relative too.
Who's that?
Well, my sister Suzanne was listening. Now my Aunt Sharon is listening, and you had two relatives, right? So we're at 2-2.
Oh, is Sharon Galvin Stokes your aunt?
Yes, you know.
Oh, okay. My fellow Macomb County countryman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
like Unlocked Michigan, the movie theaters. The poor guy at Oh, Imagine. Okay, not
Imagine.
Emoji. Yeah.
Emoji theaters would be good.
As long as you don't do the clap. I don't know why. I just hate that. I just hate that clap when you go to the
MJR, right?
Yeah. I know I'm in the minority of that, but I don't know.
Seems a little cultish.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not a big fan of frivolous fun, so that's also could be why I'm not a fan of it.
What about the airlines? Doesn't like Southwest Airlines do sing-alongs and?
Oof.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, they do all kinds of.
I don't know.
Involvement,
Southwest
passenger
have
involvement.
Things like that. That seems a little fancy for Southwest.
Yeah, they do. They have very interactive airline attendants who
yeah, I don't know.
sing and tell stories. And
I'm still in the Spirit Airlines tax bracket, so I don't know.
you don't have to worry about any stories there. You have lots of stories when you get home.
Yeah. Well, I just make sure to bring my own parachute. No, I've flown Spirit many times, and I've lived to tell the tale.
I like Spirit. They have the older planes that the other companies don't use anymore, and they got wider seats and more room and
right,
better price.
Cousin checked in, up 3-2.
Oh
here.
man,
Hey, cousin.
Were we invited to this family reunion, or did we just crash it?
I don't know.
What's happening, Larry? You're behind 3-2 to Zip, unless you got some.
This is the Guy Gordon Show.
I came to work and a family reunion broke out.
Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
The phone lines are open, 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. Let's get right to it with Rick and Wyandotte. Rick, thanks for being on the Guy Gordon Show today.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Hey, I got a question. First, actually, I got a statement to make. I think we're just over-talking all this, personally. I think that it should be simple. You know, I go to the polls because I'm an able-bodied person and responsible. That I want to put my vote in. So I go to the polls and I have to show picture ID and they got to match it up to my card and I get my ballot and I vote. If you're going to do anything other than go to the polls, it should be absentee, where you send in for the ballot and then there is a number given that matches that ballot through the Secretary of State, and that's it, in my opinion. But let's just go hypothetical. Let's say that they came out with a kit that they send you where you basically give a thumbprint. And that's it. There's a database. You know, they know that is you that filled out this ballot.
So why do you think the candidates spend so much time talking about this issue and these issues? Do you think they just want to get more people to come out and vote and make people think that, hey, if you don't get out and vote, we could have this thing stolen from us?
Listen, Kevin, you know what? I'm a believer in everybody has that right to vote. If you're an American citizen, you have the right to vote and you know, exercise your franchise to vote. I think that all this, again, it's just being overtalked. It was invented and by design because, you know, through coronavirus this particular year, they're riding the back of that. And it's all, in my opinion, it's all made to cast doubt, which right there is going to cause a train wreck, let alone create fraud. So again, you know, we send in for our DNA for Ancestry.com. We give all of our information to get car loans and house loans. And I mean, I can keep going here. So why couldn't we just do a simple thumbprint on a ballot that you send for?
Yeah, no, it could be done. It might, I don't know if they'd have to spend a lot of time to verify that or if you could do it as quickly or not. But obviously the technology exists to make sure that voting is fair, and they should move in that direction. Let's check in with Dave in Monroe. Dave, thanks for calling. You there, Dave?
No, he dropped. Let's go to John in Jackson.
All right, John in Jackson. Thanks for calling the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, yeah, thanks. Good show going on. I just I want to take us back to the Senate Majority Leader and to his point, being in the legislature. And I got to believe that there's a frustration there that, you know, we elected these individuals to go up and to do a job, and they're really being denied, you know, kind of only partially denied the ability to do their job. Whether it's defining the laws regarding, you know, the elections and at what time the ballots need to be in, or ballot harvesting, or this current issue with the 45 law. You know, we elect these individuals to do the job, and they can obviously do it. They're up there legislating, debating, discussing now, passing laws on to a governor. The governor is vetoing or signing them, but not for anything that has to do with the virus. And that's got to be, you know, so frustrating. So I'm glad that they have standing in this suit regarding this next battle, which is kind of defining, you know, the parameters of elections, which are also tied to law. So it was interesting to hear the good majority leader.
Yeah, I was glad.
And that was a good segment.
I was glad Mike Shirkey jumped on, and, you know, and he's a gentleman talking about the issues, but you do think that and tend to know that people know what Article 2 says if you're in politics, and they know that it's the legislature that is supposed to make the laws, not the judicial or executive branches. But here and across the country, people are willing to do things and make moves that they know are wrong just to upset the apple cart. And that's what's frustrating to me is people know what they should be doing, but they're intentionally doing the wrong thing in some circumstances. And in this case, I think it's important for the Michigan legislature to say as loud as they can, as often as they can, that Article 2 says that it's the legislature that makes laws. The courts are there to interpret them. So I was glad he came on, and I appreciated that, and I appreciate your call as well. Let's check in with Robert in Sterling Heights real quick. Robert, how are you?
Actually, we'll do that after the news because we have mobility makers coming up.
Okay, we ran up against the clock there. Let's check in with Guy Gordon and mobility makers.
It is Tuesday. That means it's time for Mobility Makers. So much happening in the world of transportation, and who better to talk about it with than Joanne Muller at Axios.com. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Guy.
When you ask consumers, what do you really want when it comes to technology? It's kind of a moving target. We know that they're trying to put more self-driving features into vehicles. From what you've seen from J.D. Power's Tech Experience Survey, are customers getting what they want, and do they want all these self-driving features?
Well, it's very interesting. If you haven't bought a car in some time, you're going to be surprised at how much assisted driving there is available in these new cars. But it's stuff that will help control acceleration, braking, steering, etc. That is supposed to make life easier for you. But it turns out that a lot of drivers don't trust that stuff yet, and that's important because those are the building blocks for self-driving cars. And so it tells me that car makers have a lot of work to do to build more of that trust.
You know what? I love my adaptive cruise. My wife hates it because the car will all of a sudden surge on its own, and she doesn't know why as a passenger. And so it's interesting. It's not just drivers. It's those riding shotgun that have that sense as well. What do they really like?
You know what they really like? They love the cameras that are in cars. So it's not just the backup camera that might be on your center console or in your mirror to help you back up, which everyone seems to love. But there's other kinds of cameras now, especially like when you're parked, and you can have an overhead camera, sort of a bird's eye view that can see everything around you. So if there's a curb right up next to your tire, or a rock or something like that. And people really like those extra set of eyes.
Yeah, I want a camera to show me where I left my keys. That would be really helpful. Something I remember when Elon Musk started out with Tesla, he really thumbed his nose at traditional Detroit engineers and automotive productivity experts and traditional production know-how. He's kind of flipped the script on that and is now sounding a lot like he's channeling Henry Ford. Tell me about that.
Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, if you listen to Elon Musk talk these days, he talks more about manufacturing efficiency than he does about the cars themselves. And he really has become very obsessed with this, which is similar to Henry Ford. He too was looking to find the best way to automate processes and just get the most efficiency out of the workers. And this is exactly what we see Musk focusing on right now.
Well, I guess we'll take some comfort after he really dissed us for the better part of 5 years now, or so it seems. I want to get with you on what you thought about the Ford Bronco, but we're out of time, Joanne. You take care, and it sounds like you got a bunch of calls coming in, so we'll let you get back to work. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, Guy, thanks very much. More of the Guy Gordon Show coming up after the break. But right now, let's check in with traffic and weather with Rich Luzinski.
WJR Traffic First is sponsored by Parkway Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Attention new car buyers. Parkway Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is offering huge savings on their inventory of new Ram pickups during the Ram Power Days event. Parkway Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram on Hall Road in Clinton Township. Show up, sign up, and ride. That accident on I-75 southbound after Northline Road has cleared. The I-94 eastbound ramp to Range Road is closed for construction until 7 p.m. That accident blocking your left lane on I-94 westbound after the Lodge has cleared as well. Expect delays on I-75 northbound between 9 and 11 Mile. Also between, basically 8 Mile and Adams Road going northbound. You have construction all the way through there. Your right lane is closed for repairs on Lapeer Road, southbound between Dranner Road and Indian Road Wood until 5 p.m. And if you're driving in Detroit, remember Vice Presidential Democratic nominee Kamala Harris will be attending events in town. Expect motorcade slowdowns as a result. Now, WJR weather first from the Weather Channel. Sunny, 72 degrees. I'm Rich Luzinski, WJR News in about a minute and a half.
That was nice of Guy to check in from the road.
Yeah, he should have dropped in a few puns.
Put Gail on the phone. We want to talk.
That needs to be your first guest on Friday. He's back. He's back Friday, right?
He is back Friday, yes.
Okay. That sounds like I should go golfing on Friday afternoon then.
Well, you're not going to be listening from 3 to 5.
You know, it's funny. Anytime I pop on Facebook, it alerts me that there's a live broadcast on WJR. So I got ML a couple of times last week because I opened up Facebook. I'm like, oh yeah, hey, I want to listen to this. I popped it on and listened in. I'm not in my car as much anymore with COVID, you know. So
right.
So I'm catching it. I'm catching it more from Facebook than I am from the radio.
Right. We come to you now.
Although now everyone in my family, they love that all our cars are on WJR every time they get in them.
You program them all once you started doing shows here?
Yes.
Smart man.
Guy Gordon show.
Oh. That is our guest, Ken Clark, but on the caller ID it says Clark Kent. So
that's great.
I'm like, wow.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
Now you know you're gonna make me get that wrong now.
Yeah, I know. I put it in your head. I planted that seed. That happens all the time with Guy. If we mess up someone's name, it goes right into his head and messes him up.
We like doing that. I don't even know the context. I just know we like messing Guy up.
I was telling Kevin that it says Ken Clark, but on caller ID it says Clark Kent, so I thought Superman was calling.
I'm sure he gets that a lot.
Yeah, there's worse problems to have in the world than people thinking you have the same name as Superman.
Yeah. I'm sure if they constantly asking him to write a news story for him or fly him over a building in a single bound.
Faster than a speeding bullet. So let's see. Okay, we have that going on. Some calls.
Hey, Martin, how you doing? Used to work in the Fisher building a long time ago.
Really?
Bill left us.
Yeah, looks like Bill went to another radio station. Okay, Bill. We'll win you back tomorrow. Thanks for flipping over to us.
He'll be back. Bill will be back. They always come back.
We have a good nucleus of regulars, and then
we had to clear him out so Clay could get in here. Anyway, he's just about done with work. It's time.
Yeah, I want to hear about his second day back. He worked 3 miles yesterday, so I'm guessing at least 4 today.
Am I missing something with Clay's backstory? Because you guys are really invested, and I know
he used to be here
I don't know the backstory.
He used to be here for the whole show, all the shows, all day actually. But now he's back to work. I don't know if he's off work for COVID or what, but he's back to work. Why is he walking so much? Is he a mailman or something?
Janitor, I think is what he said yesterday.
Yeah, janitor must be a big. Kevin, that's your next That's your next investigative journalism piece, is figuring out what Clay does at work.
We'll get to the bottom of Clay's situation.
That's right.
Thank you, Martin. I appreciate it.
Break out your Bush costume.
Say what?
Break out your palm tree, your pine tree costume.
I get it from Hawaii when we were chasing Kwame around Hawaii. Yeah. Palm tree costume.
That's no garbage. That's no garbage can. That's Kevin Dietz.
It is amazing how people have no idea when you're following them. They just don't pay attention to anything.
Yeah.
You always think, oh my gosh, they're going to know, they're going to know, they're going to know. And they almost never know.
Was there ever a time you thought you were busted?
Oh, I've been busted. Yeah. Someone's jumped out of their car and run up to the door and pound on the hood of the car.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
This isn't the Taco Bell. So what, you have to talk your way out of it, or you just floor it?
You do a little James Bond move.
Yeah. I would imagine you have to go around with those smoke grenades, so you just throw it down and then you disappear.
Poof.
Yeah.
Kevin, I just reordered. We've got Robert, Tim, and Keith.
Okay. Do they know that they have to wait till 45 or no? No.
But
don't we have Grace Centers right now?
We also need to wait for the pastor to call back.
Okay. So we'll start on phones until we hear from the pastor.
I'm sure he'll call back.
Oh,
here he is. Speaking
there
of
he
devil.
is.
We summoned
Clark
him.
Kent. It's Clark Kent.
That's right. From a phone booth. Are your ears ringing? I don't know if you heard that. Laura said, "We were just talking about you. Nothing bad." All right, let's. Well, I don't know. It made me chuckle. Mm-hmm. All right, 42 will be our out. And we're back in 25 here.
All right.
So I'm going backstage, and now everyone knows what that means.
Backstage.
It's where we have a fruit tray. It's completely catered by craft services.
The green room.
It's the lap of luxury.
You're in the green room.
Yeah.
The Guy Gordon Show, 760. Here's special guest host, Kevin Dietz.
Grace Centers of Hope is one of the largest faith-based long-term life skill programs for those affected by homelessness, addiction, and abuse in Southeast Michigan. Grace Centers of Hope provides help and hope to those in need without any government funding. And today, we're happy to announce that WJR has partnered with Grace Centers of Hope in its 205 Meals program. But rather than me tell you about that, let's bring in Pastor Kent Clark, CEO of Grace Centers of Hope. Pastor, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I'm honored to be on the show. You know, we're headed toward the holidays. I know that seems a bit away, but it'll be here before you know it. And we have more people come to us in the cold winter months and in the holidays than any other time. These are folks who are addicted to drugs and or alcohol, and it has brought them to the place of homelessness. And so we're raising the dollars to provide them with healthy meals. Actually, last year we served 189,600 meals to homeless individuals last year. So we're asking folks to help us. WJR listeners have been so good to us, and we're appealing again to them to help us with $2.05. You can provide one person just an outstanding, healthy meal. And we hope that you'll do it today. We're trying to get the dollars that we need to make sure that we're ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And during the COVID thing, we've had a bit of a problem all over the country, but especially here in our Oakland County area. And we're asking folks to help.
Yeah, and you guys help so many people. And, you know, a gift of $2.05, you know, you can't get a cup of coffee for that, but you can feed somebody a nutritious meal. Or, hey, 10 people for $25.10 or 25 people for $51. It's something we can do, and we know that it's going to help people directly. Can you tell us a little bit about what people say when they're able to get a good, nutritious meal that they otherwise would not have had?
Well, they're most grateful to be in a place where they can get their life back in our life skills program, have good meals, bathe their bodies, getting their life back. Grateful people. And all of this is done. We have a $7 million budget. All of this is done without any government funding. It's people helping people at Grace Centers of Hope.
That's fantastic. And now I read that about half your donations come from donations and grants, but you also have thrift stores. Tell us about that a little bit.
We do have 4 thrift stores, and they're just absolutely wonderful. And if you have things you can donate to our thrift stores, we would appreciate that so very much. They provide funds for Grace Centers of Hope to do all the things that we do.
And when people think about homelessness, I don't think people realize how big of a problem homelessness is. I think last time I checked, it was like 30,000 homeless people in the Detroit area or Metro Detroit area. So many people. And I don't think people always realize that it's not just the folks that you see on the corners when you're driving around. It's moms and it's kids and it's people who are trying to go to school in the day, but they have no place to go at night. Tell us about some of the families you encounter and how you make a difference in their lives.
Well, Kevin, we have approximately 300 people, counting the men, the women, and children there. We have a full-time daycare while mom and dad are getting their lives back in our life skill classes. Their kids are in our daycare being loved and many times tutored to bring their school studies up to date. We have an educational center there where our folks can get their GED as they go through our programs. It's just we have over 50, we're right at 55 houses now that we own there, and the possibility of them becoming homeowners. We have a little saying there, we bring people from homelessness to home ownership, and we're seeing that happen as well. People getting their life back and becoming productive citizens.
That's just fantastic. Tell our listeners how they can help. How do they make a donation? How do they get their money to you to get it to the people who need it most?
Well, we have folks waiting now to hear from listeners, and I hope you'll go online to gracecentersofhope.org. That's gracecentersofhope.org, and you can make a donation there online, or you can call 248-334-2187. I hope you'll do that.
Give me that number one more time.
It's 248-334-2187.
Okay, Pastor Ken Clark, thank you so much for being on the Guy Gordon Show. I know winter is coming, Thanksgiving's coming, Christmas is coming. We appreciate all you do to provide meals for everybody who's hungry and needy in Southeast Michigan.
Thank you so much, Kevin.
All right, and that number again to call to donate is 248-334-2187. We will take a quick break. We're coming back with your calls. If you're on the line, hang in there. If you want to give us a call, it's 1-800-859-0957. You're listening to The Guy Gordon Show. Right now, let's check in with traffic and weather and Rich Luzinski.
Folks are getting by slowly on M59 eastbound between Mound Road and Van Dyke. Also on I-75 northbound between 8 and 11 Mile. Construction slows you down on the Southfield Freeway in both directions at Michigan Avenue. Drivers are backed up to Ford Road there. And if you're driving in Detroit, remember Vice Presidential Democratic nominee Kamala Harris will be attending events in town. Expect motorcade slowdowns as a result. Now,
I probably should find out. Do we know where Harris is at?
Where in Detroit? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, she was meeting with business owners, but I don't know if she was just going business to business or if she was having a set.
I hope she's south of us. I hate when we leave here from work and there's all the roads blocked off because of the president or vice president or whoever it is in town.
Yeah, Also, you just pick one wrong road and you can't get out of there, and you're stuck for like 40 minutes,
And getting
especially
on
the
the
presidential
lot,
ones.
trying to find how you're going to get where you need to go.
Oh, good.
Doesn't
Here's
help. I don't
the
know if it
lawn
still
blower
is.
guys here.
I can take Woodward straight home, but sometimes just getting the right direction on to go north from the roads around here can be tight.
I hope it's not south. That's the way I have to go. Make it
Where are
like
we supposed to send her?
west. Kevin's already home. Send him by Kevin's house.
They can come here.
Send him east though too, I guess.
That would put him in the Detroit River.
That's not very nice.
But she's
Laura.
staying in Detroit, so she doesn't have to go past Detroit.
That's true. I'd send him by Kevin's house. They can wave at his lawn people, and it'd be.
What if she showed up with a mower and a blower outside?
We'll just have a little party. The pool's closing this week on October 1st, so get that hot tub going one last time, and get the VP nominee party going. Pool party going.
Invite? Should we call her people and let them know?
Have White Boy Rick come by, and
yeah.
Who else is in town?
Let's see. White Boy Rick. Let's
Isn't
see.
Pence going to be in town this week?
Who?
Pence?
Oh yeah, he can come. Absolutely.
Well, if you invite one vice presidential candidate, you have to invite the incumbent vice president, because you have to, you have to, you can't be in. You have to be impartial is the word I'm looking for.
Well, you got to. Who's the guy that was underneath Trump's name for the overseas ballots?
Oh yeah, the libertarian.
Yeah, you got to invite him too, Kevin.
Instead of a $10,000 plate dinner, we can have a $2 plate dinner. We got hot dogs and BYOB.
Or how about an eat before you get here dinner?
That's the best. That's the best kind.
Party starts at 8 to make sure that you've had dinner already.
Exactly.
Not
so,
feeding.
Lord David in Waterford is gone. Is that the Dave who dropped? Or
Yes, I reordered the last 3 we have right now are Robert, Tim, and Keith, I believe is the order.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't
Every
scroll
time
down enough.
I'm too far away from the phone.
Oh, I didn't scroll down.
That's what I have in my banners.
All right.
Robert, Tim, and Keith.
All right.
They did not drop from the news.
Did any of them say if they're going to be mean to me or not? I'll take them last.
That's always
any of them are going to be mean to you.
That's always the risk you take being a talk show host. Someone might be mean to you.
I take that chance just being in my family.
I get most of those fights though first.
Yes.
Laura wears them down. All right, back in 30 here.
All right, back in 30.
Back in 30. 5650 is the out.
All right.
Or as they would say, if you go further east than Detroit, the oot.
I like it.
This is The Guy Gordon Show on News Talk 760 WJR. Here's special guest host, Kevin Dietz.
The lines are open, 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. We want to get right to the phone lines where callers have been hanging on for quite a bit. Robert in Sterling Heights, thanks for being patient with us today, and welcome to The Guy Gordon Show.
No problem, Kevin. That was a very good cause, and that's why I listen to a lot of WJR and The Guy Gordon Show and other places, because you guys support local charities, you give good local information, and you have good advertisers that I use. So that's why I listen to you guys. Okay.
Well, we appreciate it.
I'll tell you what, according to this Unlock Michigan, a couple things. I've been to a lot of rallies for Tulsi Gabbard, Mark Hackel, Rick Schneider, and Trump as well. When I was at some rallies, every time one of the Unlock Michigan people came to me, they asked me a lot of questions. Are you a registered voter? Have you signed this before? And when I signed up for the first time, I had to print my name, sign my name, telephone number, address, email. I can tell you that's more secure than these unsolicited ballots that are going on. All right? And other times in the past when I've had people sign petitions, they don't really let me know what it's about. They just want you to sign quick. That's not the case with Unlock Michigan. It's a one-sentence explanation. And every single time they come up to me, because they come up to me several times, I told them, well, I've already signed it. Do you want me to sign again? No. Can I sign for my brother? No, can't do that. And they always ask me registered voter. And they say, hey, this is what it is. 1945, we want to repeal that law that gives the governor unsolicited, unbridled power to claim emergency conditions. They explained it extremely well to me, and I understand it. And no one has ever put pressure on me. Now, you think the Free Press would have followed one of these signature gatherers around and find out what type of tactics they were using? It's easy to do. They could have done it very easily. They're on different. You don't have to be a genius to know where they're going to be, and you can follow them around. But they don't have any of that. I think this is. I don't know. I don't trust the Free Press, along with a lot of other newspapers. I think it's a smear tactic performed on Unlock Michigan, purposely for that reason. They can't tell you how many people are paid signature gatherers. He never told us. He doesn't have any facts and figures. You think if you're an investigative reporter, that would be one of the things you'd want to do, but they kind of glossed by that and didn't say anything. They didn't, like I said, they didn't go by anybody. So there's a lot of things missing in here.
Well,
they need to do the job. Simple as that.
Let me just share my perspective, and I don't know because I wasn't covering this story, but I've seen things like this before. And what can happen is this video was taken by another organization who then was holding a press conference or was offering it to the Free Press first, maybe, and then was going to put it out anyway. So had they maybe heard about this and had the opportunity to go put someone on the inside, I think they would have. I think they would have liked to have seen for themselves what happened. But I think in this case, this was another organization that was going to put out the video. And so they put out the video, and I think they're just letting people decide for themselves what they're seeing in the video. Is this guy just trying to fire up people to get them excited, tell funny stories about the business of collecting signatures? Or is he trying to tell them, hey, wink, wink, you can go and get signatures illegally this way or the other? I guess you can watch the video and decide, but I don't think, the Free Press probably would have loved to have someone on the inside. They probably just didn't think of it in that particular situation. But I agree with you, Tim.
How do you not think of that, Kevin? How do you not think of something like that? You're an investigative reporter that's been there. I'm not an investigative reporter.
No. I'm not saying. I'm not saying they didn't. You decide what to go undercover. You usually get a tip and say, hey, I think they're getting illegal signatures, or they're forcing people to get illegal signatures. You say, all right, let's go undercover and find out. I think in this case, the first time they heard about this was when another organization said, hey, we're going to put out this video. Here's this video of this trainer, possibly pressuring people. That's all I'm saying. I don't think they had the time to go undercover. I think the story was going to be over and done before they ever got a chance to dig in. Let's check in with Keith and Taylor. Keith, thanks for calling the Guy Gordon Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
I just want to say that I think that we as Americans have become soft and have begun to take for granted this right to vote and this privilege that we have to vote. One of the reasons why this country was founded or was so that we can have representation. And I think back to going to overseas to the Iraqi citizens when they had their first chance to vote, how they stood in line for hours under sniper fire, mortar fire, but they were willing to risk their lives to vote. And even in our own country's history, African Americans who gave their lives, with being beaten and having dogs sicked on them because they, exercising their right to vote. We need to get back to understanding that this is something that's really serious, and we need to make sure that our vote counts. And the best way we can do that is by voting in person, especially since we know we have nation states like China and Russia and Iran who are openly, trying to disrupt and mess up our elections. So we got to stop being lazy, go to the polls in person and vote. You know what I'm saying? It's very important. A lot of people have died for this privilege. So that's my take.
No, I appreciate it, Keith. And I think that you want as many people to vote as possible. You want people to be heard. You want everybody to have a say in where the country's going. And for people who can't get to the polls, you want to have a system in place to allow them to vote. If they can't get there, you don't want them to not be counted at all. But I vote in person. I like to vote in person. It doesn't bother me if the lines are long, but I think that some people, if they see long lines, they might say, you know what, my vote doesn't matter. It's never going to come down to just one vote. The lines are too long. I'm not going to do it. And I do think that this election, we've already said there's going to be more absentee ballots than ever before. They're going to break every record there is. But I think we're also going to break records on how many people actually vote, which means lines will be long on election day as well. So to your point, yeah, people, we've all become soft, but you don't want to necessarily do things that turn people away either. You want people to be heard. You don't want 20% of the population deciding who the president is. You want a majority of the population to decide that.
I would say, how important is it to you? You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take the day off. And if I got to stand in line for 10 hours, I'm going to do that. That's how important it is to me. You feel me? So you have to prioritize. People stand in line for video game releases, for gym shoe releases. They're standing long lines for hours for everything, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to the election, we have all these type of excuses. I mean, if you're able-bodied, I think you should get down there and vote in person. That's, my opinion, but thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think it's pretty crazy that people will stand in line for 2 days for their favorite musician for a concert or to get tickets to a sporting event. But when it comes time to vote, they'll be like, that's not important enough. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. Every vote actually does count. And we've had a lot of cases where just a few votes decided who was in office, and it makes a difference. Let's check in with Bob. Bob, thanks for calling the Guy Gordon Show.
How you guys doing?
We're doing well. Thanks for calling.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay,
I got
good.
you, Bob.
The thing I had to say is, you get you off speaker, I'm sorry. The thing I had to say is that we got to the point where we can have our driver's license with the magnetic strip on it. And why should we not be able to vote at any precinct, then have to go to the precinct where we live at? I mean, they've got the technology, but we got to get it down to one person, one vote, and not make it so easy for the fraud to happen with these absentee ballots. One person can sign a ballot for 20 people, I mean, is it still that way? I mean, the primary election where one person could sign a ballot and sign it for every family member they have. Is that true? Or?
Well, look, one thing, the technology has got to be getting close where we ought to be able to verify if somebody is who they say they are. Earlier someone talked about a phone print. Some people have phones that you have to show your face to recognize it's you before the phone will open up. And I'm not saying facial recognition is a good way to go. It's far from perfect, but the technology is moving in that direction. And it doesn't seem like you should have to get to your precinct to cast your vote. You should just be able to identify who you are. It must make it easier for the elector, the people working the election sites to be able to, figure that out, I suspect. But, voter fraud is real, and people are adamant about doing more to protect the people's votes. That voter fraud. You can't make rules that make it easier to be fraudulent. You have to figure out the best way to make it fair and accurate. And I think that's what they're trying to do. Thanks for your call, Bob. I appreciate it. Tim, sorry we ran out of time. I hope you'll call back tomorrow. You're listening to the Guy Gordon Show, and there'll be more with Mitch Albom after this. But right now, let's check in with traffic and Rich Luzinski.
All right.
Stop by for details. Over 50.
All righty.
All right.
Picture day tomorrow. Laura, was there any tips for us for picture day?
No, it was super easy.
No lighting tips on whether we should wear dark makeup or light makeup.
They've got lights. I'm
Does
not
Mike,
that
does Mike,
doing
does
guy.
Mike need eyeliner?
Yeah.
I'm more of a fall color than a spring. I think I might also shave this dirt stash.
I would, Mike.
Well, they probably do pictures every 10 years or so, or 20
Yeah.
years. So you might want to take
Or I'll just shave everything but the mustache.
I like it.
Look
Well,
really
all right. Thanks to all the Facebook folks for stopping in and dropping in. We appreciate you hanging in with us, and we'll be back tomorrow.
See you guys. Bye.
All right. See you guys.